If you struggle with imposter syndrome, welcome to Earth, my friends. Welcome. We shake your hand. We all suffer from this to some degree or another. And I hesitate to even say suffer. It's just something we experience as human beings with brains who can accomplish things. I mean, I have some cool awards here back on the wall. There's an 1 million subscriber plaque. There's an 100,000, another 100,000, another 100,000 right there. Some really cool experiences I've kind of hung up on the wall behind me. And sometimes I still find myself thinking, that's not that big of a deal. You didn't actually earn that. You didn't actually deserve it. Even if you did deserve it, you could have done it better. People don't actually think it's that cool. I mean, there's all these sorts of thoughts that come into your mind, whether you're someone like me, YouTuber, content creator, business person, or you are maybe an academic and you've published a cool paper and you actually think it's complete garbage. This is something that happens to all of us. I've struggled with it on and off throughout my life, kind of like surfing a wave. Sometimes I really have it, and sometimes I look at myself and I go, I can't even identify with the person, old me, who thought they had imposter syndrome. So some of the things I've gone through, I'm going to share with you now in hopes that it helps you battle this yourself. And if you're new to this weird little channel, my name is Kevin Espiritu. I am a gardener, YouTuber, content creator, business person, but this is just my fun channel where I talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. So, imposter syndrome, what is it? I'm going to give you the Wikipedia definition. It is a psychological occurrence. Important that we remember psychological occurrence, not a disorder, in which people doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments and have persistent internalized fear of being exposed as frauds, despite external evidence of their competence. Those experiencing, you and me, this phenomenon do not believe they deserve their success or their luck. They might incorrectly attribute it to the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you think you're smarter than you are, or they may think that they are deceiving others because they feel as they are not as intelligent as they outwardly portray themselves to be. So here's the first thing to know about it. It is a psychological occurrence. It is not a disorder. It's not in the DSM. It is studied as a reaction to stimuli, sort of a conditioned response that your brain will do in response to getting something like this, or perhaps receiving an award, or doing something really cool at work, or maybe winning a baseball game. Any of these sort of external achievements that factually are achievements. They're actually things that happened in the real world. Other people can verify them, that you did or you accomplished. And then you go, if they only knew. If they only knew the real me, they would know that this actually wasn't true. I actually didn't deserve it. I'm actually not the person that's supposed to have gotten this award. And that's where you get the imposter syndrome. So a woman named Pauline Clance created the Clance Imposter Phenomenon Scale, SIPS, really cool name. And she has 6 characteristics that have to happen. You have to have 2 of these technically to have imposterism. I didn't realize it was this study, but now that I've gone a little bit deeper and not just thought about it a lot, I'm realizing it's a deep world in the world of imposter syndrome. So you have to have the imposter cycle, or basically that phenomenon I just discovered, sort of responding to an external event by kind of discounting your own accomplishments. You have to be special or be the best, or have that sort of feeling like, oh, I'm different, I'm the best, I'm special in some way that other people are not. Or you at least have to have the need for that. You have to have the characteristics of a Superman or a Superwoman. I guess to me that kind of ties in to number 2, need to be special or the best. You have to be afraid to fail to some degree. You have to have the denial of the ability and the discounting of the praise. Oftentimes I might find myself, someone says, oh, it's really cool what you've done with your company, Epic Gardening, or it's really cool that you've been able to lose some weight on your fitness challenge, or this or that. And I'll say, oh, it's, thanks, no big deal. I've been making a conscious effort actually to say, thanks, I appreciate that. And just leave it at that, because that's what they're complimenting you for. They're giving you praise. Take the praise. Actually, a really weird social phenomenon, one I've been very guilty of myself, is to discount the praise. And then if you think about what the other person's doing, let's say I come up to you and I say, hey, Charlie, I really, really love the way that you edit your videos. They look amazing. And you said, dude, they're total garbage. Like, I even put that one up. I'd be like, all right, I guess I won't compliment Charlie anymore, right? Like, that was not how I expected that interaction to go. So it can really harm your social interactions as well, because you'll get into this feedback loop of basically training people that you don't like praise, thus they should not praise you, and then you don't get it. And then you go, I wonder why no one praises me anymore. Well, you just train them not to because you discount the praise right in front of their face. And then feeling fear and guilt about success. For me, I would say if I had to identify with any of these, I would pick the imposter cycle definitely happens. The need to be special or the best. I would say different versus special or best. For me, I go, oh, I'm different. I approach things differently. I think differently. Well, if you think differently all the time, you actually think the same. You can't be a contrarian all of the time. Not a good recipe for actually being an original person. Then feeling fear and guilt about success. I would say that happens to me sometimes as well. The real question though, guys, is how do you break out of the cycle? How do you make sure that you catch this as it's happening and basically train yourself and train your brain to respond in a different way, a much more positive and empowering way? This is what I've come up with. Thing number one, I'm probably the worst at, but I'm getting better, I swear, is to legitimately celebrate a success. When I got this little million plaque right here, I felt like I won an Oscar, and I actually celebrated it. I took a moment, I took a photo with it, I took a photo with my mom, I sat there, I admired it. So there's internal celebration, sort of telling myself, you earned this. This is something you worked really hard to get. You actually got it. It's right in front of your face. Show it off. This is your moment to show it off, right? You've been grinding away for this for years. Actually celebrate it. And then I actually went out to a nice dinner, literally by myself. I just went out by myself and spent whatever money I wanted to spend on whatever thing I wanted to eat in that exact moment and connected it mentally to it's because I'm celebrating my 1 million subscriber plaque. Could be anything for you, but actually take the time to celebrate it. In the real world, you are telling yourself that you earned that thing and you thus deserve that thing. Number two, realize that you're certainly not a special snowflake. You're not the only one who feels a level of imposterhood in your chosen field. Or you might have 5 friends that you hang out with all the time, and they all feel like relative imposters in the thing that they're doing. It's like a nurse, a teacher, an entrepreneur, a professor, and an athlete. And they all feel like, I'm actually not that good at the thing I'm doing. If people only could know, if they could only see, they would know. And look at, you're all hanging out with each other. You clearly don't think that about them, and they're probably not thinking it about you. And this kind of ties to another realization that if you're watching this video, hopefully you've had by now, but if you haven't, I wish for it to come to you soon because it is very freeing. And it is that no one actually really cares about you in the way you think they do. They certainly don't care about you as much as you care about yourself, right? We're the most self-important people to our own selves, clearly. So when I walk around, I'm not going, wow, that guy's dressed up like a lawyer. He's probably bad at his job and he's actually tricking everyone to thinking that he's good. I actually don't think anything about the lawyer. I just wander on my day, probably worrying about a problem that I have. So once you realize that, number one, most people have a version of this, you can empathize with everyone. We can all sort of agree that we're feeling this. And then number two, most people are too caught up in what they're doing to even think that you might be an imposter, right? So there's actually nothing to be afraid of. Number three is to base your opinion of yourself in these endeavors on actual hard facts. For example, no one can argue that our Epic Gardening channel actually has 1 million subscribers. No one can argue it. It's right there. You can go look. We're actually at 2.6 million, maybe 3 million soon. That's a factual thing. How I got there, you might be able to say, oh, you didn't get there in a legit way. If you're in imposterhood in your mind, you're sort of concocting reasons why even that isn't worth it or isn't real or isn't legitimate. But I can look within myself and say, no, I worked hard to get to that point and I actually got there. That's a fact about my life, or at least my work life, that I've truly accomplished. So you can't argue with an objective fact like that. So when you look at that, you can say, no, dude, chill. You actually did this thing. Number four is to just actually acknowledge that that's how you're feeling in the moment. This is something that I am certainly improving on through some inner work, some self-work, self-introspection, to actually experience the feelings you're feeling when you're feeling them, let them sort of process through your body and mind. And once they've been experienced, there's nothing sort of left to hang on to, at least in that moment. So a good example would be if you are grieving, right? If you're sad, let yourself be sad for the amount of time that you have to be sad. And then eventually you just can't cry anymore, or you can't be down anymore. It will change, right? Unless you're going to live 80 years that way. It's probably not going to happen, right? At some point it will change. And so once you let that go, acknowledge it, you're not sort of repressing that imposter feeling, you will get around it. And you'll be able to with tip number 5, which is to reframe your thought patterns. Oftentimes the imposter cycle, which by the way is some sort of new goal or new project or new task, then you have anxiety, you prepare for it, you over prepare for it, you complete the project, you do very well, and you're very relieved, and then you backwards rationalize that it was lucky, someone else would have done it better, I'm actually not that good. Then it increases your anxiety, your doubt, you feel like a fraud. Then the next goal comes up and the cycle completes. So how to get out of that is at any one of those steps in the cycle, you can basically pattern interrupt yourself with some reframed positive thinking. So if you were to say, let's say I have a new goal, right? I want to hit a certain sales number with my business, and I get really anxious about, oh, what will happen if I don't hit it? Are investors going to be mad? Will my team be mad? This or that or the other. I can say, you know what? This is the goal. I'm going to go for it with these actions. That's what I can do. That's what I can control, and I can work hard and smart to achieve it, and then let the chips fall where they may, right? So let me give you an example. Let's just say I set a goal and I achieved it for, hitting a certain amount of sales at our company in a year, and we hit that goal. We're having this big celebration, and it starts to creep into my head that, well, we only got there because we had to offer some discounts, or we only got there because we had a lucky year because there was a pandemic or something like that, which happened to us, quite frankly. Then I can either go down that spiral, right? And keep concocting reasons why it's not real. Or if I have enough presence and awareness, I can say, you know what you're doing right now is perpetuating the imposter cycle. Why don't you say, factually, we actually hit this milestone? Yes, there were some things out of our control in both a negative and positive sense that contributed to my ability to hit this milestone, but I put a plan in place, I did it, and I'm sitting here at the party celebrating it, and that's proof enough that I actually did this, and I should be proud of that. I actually saw a YouTuber recently on a sewing channel who was showing off all the pieces that she made over the course of the year. It was like 45 pieces. They were really cool pieces. And every single one that she felt proud of, she said, I feel really proud of myself that I made this because it was a stretch goal for me and I actually accomplished it. And I looked at it and I said, wow, there's someone who legitimately doesn't have imposter syndrome. She's trying stuff. She's happy if it does well. If it doesn't do well, she has a plan to do better. She's not anxious or thinking about it. And I wish that for myself, and I wish that for you guys here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Peace out.